Good morning, guys. It's our last morning here together. Happy Friday to you. Got some news just coming out. Let's hop right in real quick. Oof. Hello. We're moving. So we finally went and almost tagged, as you can see, into this pink area. Um, now we've literally tagged it at this point because it was higher than where the pink drawing was from yesterday. That monthly +2. So that's monthly +2, weekly +2. So before our call, I actually tried one late reduced size short, and then obviously needed to get out of that prior to the CPI or whatever it is, PCE release that we just witnessed. So really today, before we get into the meat of the top down prep and everything, it's either about us moving towards the major, quarterly/yearly destination, or it's about a market being, tired from extremes or whatnot. I'm going to short some here, see if we revert back into this range. Contextual extremes. We'll stand aside. Buyers just keep on pushing there. All right, one more shot. We're back in short. Still defining this market as rotational here for the session. So I'm not fighting any imbalance. It's just a upper extreme. Seems to keep running out of gas though, into kind of the 93, 94 area. A little bit of aggressive selling here as we see the delta start to head lower. I like the trade. I like the fact that there's some volatility to this. So you're not going to see me take a quick scale here into developing value area high. Sometimes I do that. Like I said, it's an upper extreme. It's not going against an established imbalance. So I'm not really going to respect developing value high as a precise level. We'll see what happens at maybe delta neutral, some kind of a better rotation down. So I'm essentially saying I'm foregoing a small scale here. I'm looking for a bigger move for my initial scale. All kinds of stuff on the econ release docket today. So we'll keep our heads on a swivel for that. (8:45) PMI, 9 a.m. consumer sentiment. All right, so far, a turn from developing value area high, where we chose not to scale. No major buying behind that little lift up thus far. So if I can get this trade to a place where it's further away from entry, we'll step through the prep. Now, on a trade like this, the more time it spends above developing value, above these highs here, the more problematic it gets, because now all of a sudden it starts to get, instead of a y-axis rhythm rotation, it gets an x-axis, a time-based rhythm, and therefore starts to kind of change intraday condition on us, tell us that it can hold, some form of a breakout pullback through there. I am going to adjust this level because it's here. So that's what we were looking at yesterday, is a really good spot for kind of the first place for the market to get to, for the to tell us that it has indeed moved far enough short term, was that monthly +2. And so now on the news release, it's kind of perfect that we just finally tagged that. Delta couldn't even get to neutral. Oh, I forgot about that crazy absorption yesterday. Nuts. Can't even get to neutral yet. Keep an eye on that situation. Prior value is down here at 83. We head down from this area, that is going to be a nice looking wick on some of those higher time frames, from a place where it makes sense to see a wick, right? All right, starting to feel like decent rhythm here, starting to feel like we should peel some off. Let's see if we can squeeze some more out of it. Still watching for actual delta neutral. All right, got some. Took off some more. Just kind of piecing out of this chunk of scale out, if that makes sense, right? So if I'm going to scale out of X number of lots here, I'm just kind of piecing out of those, just trying to milk all I can out of this. But that's probably going to be it for a temporary low. Delta neutral, nice rotation, prior swing highs. Makes sense to have some risk off there. Let's do some prep. For that, let me say good morning again. What's up, guys? It's been a cool week. I agree with some of the sentiments in the room about how, turns out this is probably one of the better intensive weeks we could have, right? Somebody said that yesterday afternoon, and I was like, you know what? It's right. It's been a really cool week to have all kinds of situations. Haven't really had A+ narrative situation, but that's okay. More times than not, as a NADRO trader, you don't have what we call A+ narrative situations. So, it's good stuff. Why don't you plot composite POC on your charts? Well, we'll talk about that in the Q&A if you want, but I don't care really where points of control are in general. I don't care where VWAP is in general. I care where the edges of value are. You may have, if you keep up with where I've been interviewed out there in podcasts and stuff like that, one of my phrases is, who knows what I'm going to say next? Let them know the phrase. Brandon's chiming in. Uh-oh, who's going to do it? Who's got the best WPM? Yeah. My edge comes from the edges. All right, let's do the prep. I just felt like we were a little rushed there. I was doing some trading. I wanted to drop by and say good morning properly. Okie doke. Yearly. It's just doing what we've been talking about. We will only, not like yesterday, today we'll only focus on yearly prior value. Rejection there. Destination is up there. Obviously, this is something here, but we're going to focus on that on the quarterly because it's just a duplication. Quarterly, we've had that bull line in the sand there, which is where some of the bullishness from last week's DMIs prior to the intensive was coming from. We've had that little intermediate reduced importance resistance, which is now reduced importance support, by the way, if we get a little pullback into there. But that's not an area that I'm going to be using as a precise trade location. As I've mentioned from Monday on, above, below, above, below, above, below, the level's not so great. But what is great is that this market is trying to get, this done. And by great, I mean, we have clarity there. So the big time frames, as we've talked about again since Monday, have been pulling us higher. There is that tailwind of those bull narratives on those time frames. Monthly is now short-term problematic for upside, right? +2, it's an extreme. It's a true extreme. It's hard for this market, especially given where we've come from and the lack of a pullback. It's hard for a market to get here and just keep going. It's hard. I'm not saying it can't happen. Take a look over here. Like there's, we could go way higher. I get it. Anything can happen. Look at what it did down here. But probabilistically speaking, under more normal situation, this is a temporary bearish area for something like this, which is now a nice bull zone. I'm going to call the monthly early. I'm going to make an early call it imbalanced up. Okay. We've now spent so much time and actually the majority of this rotation now above there. And that's even a large rotation to be doing that, right? The average rhythm size on this time frame is probably something like this, right? Maybe a little bit bigger. So this is an above average rotation, and we have most of the rotation above there. Anyways, the thought is a pullback here. So there's plenty of room for us as a short-term trader to take advantage of downside to then really see the upside. So this is, we'll make it a bull zone here. It is a bull zone. Just this whole area here. But we got to get there. We got to see a pullback that probably takes a day and a half or something, right? To get there, to stabilize, to wick, to put in a complex low, whatever, to do that. So that's the thought there. Let's keep in mind that's one time frame. Yearly bullish, quarterly bullish, monthly bullish, but short-term bearish. Weekly is very similar to monthly. Go ahead and adjust this drawing. Weekly is very similar, right? We just put in this wick into the 2. But you know what? The weekly is, let's call it what it is. The weekly is in a fast trend, holding the 1.5, front running the 1.5. There was the real pullback. But then look at this, holds the 1.5. So far on this wick holds the 1.5, right? So 3 pullbacks to the 1.5, and then we got the one real one yesterday that I was lamenting not trading. So we certainly could see more of that, right? As long as this fast trend is going to persist, it's going to be tough to nail meaningful shorts. But fast trends, especially the longer they're going, the harder they get to keep going. So we're thinking +2 wick on the news, similar to the monthly pullback to find the buyers. So where does that put us from a long-term VWAP perspective as we come, into the open here in 38 minutes? It puts us markedly bullish across timeframes, where all systems go bullish, but short-term probability needing a deeper pullback, which puts us as a short-term trader in a position where we can take advantage of that to the downside. So that's why you've only seen me take short trades thus far today. So big move down, not a ton of selling behind it, just getting back to our trade here. Not a ton of selling. It's okay, but it could have been more. Couldn't get through delta neutral, now finding buyers starting to lift us. It's all right. We got a good scale, decent rotation on that scale into delta neutral. Kind of, I thought that little push might have been the capitulation into that low. We went a little bit lower on weak selling. And as I said, we're now turning delta neutral as held. That's not in favor of our trade, but it's not going to shake us out of the trade, right? It's okay. By the way, this trade was sized smaller. So I had delta neutral to the downside. I was not trading at 6 a.m. Here at 7 a.m., I was prepared to get into this trade, essentially with a stop all the way up here and just size it appropriately. Sometimes it's okay to do that. If you miss an ideal entry, but you still get something. And by the way, on the 3-minute chart, there was like a very flaggy little breakdown. You can go look at it right there, right? And it started to break down right there. And I took the short. And then it wasn't that this is where my stop was. It was, this isn't working. Buyers are taking control. I'm not going to sit around for the news. And so it was just a decision to get out. My plan was to get this flag breakdown, and I was looking to actually scale this aggressively into there and then assess whether I wanted to hold into the news, probably just take it off there and then reassess after the news. So anyways, very small loss there. Took a almost 1 hour loss there. And then here we are with this. So let's get to structural analysis. Long-term VWAP summary is that we're bullish across timeframes, but needing a pullback short term, which is tradable. Structurally, nothing really different than yesterday. There is no new structure. We're still looking at the this very minor old guy here. We've got some structure higher. I'm not sure why I have these overlapping here. Let's go look. So yeah, I just we had a wider structure. My data's, not still going past there. It looks like it's probably a bigger CVA, and then we had a tight little 2 or 3 day, 2.5 day right there. So I don't mind doing that. You can be aware that there's balance from here to here. You can be aware that there's even more from there to there. It's not a problem to do that when it's embedded fully at times. Where would we never keep balance? Where one edge of value is now the middle of another value. In this case, we have value within value. So I don't hate that. I don't really care. It's an old CVA. It's not like it's a, really dominant force in our analysis. So there's really no directional bias or anything from the CPA stuff. More recent structure is lower. So we'll be aware of this. We'll be kind of aware of this. Remember that shading. This is the darkest, this is medium, and then this is very, very light. So it's less important. This pink area on the DMI chart is that major extreme. I would feel comfortable doing this here because this is an important part. This is that +2 on the monthly. It's a shorter term temporary extreme. And we could adjust that bull level to come up to here. 66 to 69. Something like that. It's going to be drifting higher, right? Because it's a dynamic area. Could pull back lower. We're not going to forget that some of these lower areas, like the monthly, could provide major bullishness, right? I really think we could essentially see it like that. 2 different key areas in which we could look to interact with this market from a bullish perspective. You got to think about the lower one, though. That's now going to be dissonant with the weekly, right? This upper one is the weekly. At this point, the weekly is going to be exactly shifting its definition to rotational. That's going to be a bearish area. There's enough room for us to trade in between those so we can get away with it. And we can respect it. That's a beautiful place to get scaled out if we are long from the lower one. The upper bull zone today will be probably quick on the draw to trade from. The lower one will be very slow to trade from. What do I mean by that? I mean that we're not just going to shoot the first thing, the first Heikin-Ashi shift or momentum shift that that moves down there. We're going to need to see it really stabilize if we get that low. Where is this? Are you guys seeing the screen okay? Awesome. Okay. All right. Half an hour till the open. In terms of let's talk about two things. Let's talk about the strength of our plan, and let's talk about any potential what if we just go higher from here scenarios. Strength of the plan is probably the best we've seen this week. The short, the early short, the temporary short, I like it. It is dissonant, right, with the big picture narrative. But I don't always trade with, yearly, quarterly narratives. There's a lot of wiggle room on those time frames for anything to happen, and without even almost showing up on that time frame. And we can have daily loss limits and huge winning days and all kinds of stuff, and it's just a blip on the radar there. So don't be too bogged down by those time frames typically, or influenced by those time frames typically. But yeah, overall, I really like the plan today. I think we have the most confluence across time frames. Yeah, so pretty simple. What if we just go higher? What if we go higher here, get stopped out of this short that we're in? Would we feel comfortable going long with the imbalance up as the major destinations higher into, is it not on this? $41.22. Oh, it is this. Let's make this pink. There we go. Major destination higher. You betcha. We can cautiously go long with further move up. The market tells us, hey, we've got enough energy. We're holding in balance up. Order flow is looking great. We're close to these destinations. Yeah, it's going to be pushing real extremes on monthly, weekly. But especially if we get a little bit of aid by structural, right? So what if we get this, right? Well, then yeah, we could push up towards mid 120s. and have something additional to lean on there, as well as order flow, imbalance, things like that. So we can do it. So let's draw out like a hypo scenario just for review work and posterity. One is the temporary short, right? Two is, we might have several scenarios here we walk through. Cautious long, higher. Three is, let's just lump them together. Bull zone longs. I'm going to grab some coffee. BRB. Alrighty, back in the saddle. If you trade from home, if you work from home, I mean, what's a better investment than a good espresso machine, coffee machine? I got a Miele, the German brand, Miele, is incredible. If this yeah, a good chair, 100%. I'm surprised at how good this chair has been. I'm actually surprised. I know it's like a good gaming chair or whatever. It's not nearly what I have. It's not nearly expensive as some of the Herman Miller stuff or whatever. But man, this thing, because I've had back issues since college. This thing has been really, really good for me. I'm sure it's good for some people, others. You have the same one. It's fantastic. This little pad here, the lumbar support pad, I mean, and it's not broken down because I've had it for since 2019, I think. So 4 years, and it feels as good as it did the day I got it. And I don't have a Secret Labs affiliate deal here, guys. I'm just talking. I was on that Keurig life for a while. I was on it. Keep grinding. So I am thinking about putting some size back on. It's not something I always do in this situation. Order flow looks nice. There's not as much as I was saying there was a little bit of a lack of selling. The buyers are weaker on this push up. I'd feel even more comfortable about it. That's fine. I just don't want to see us holding above this little pre-market area, the upper end of that overnight distribution, if you will. I know it's not much of a true distribution, but we certainly are balancing in this range. So shorting the upper end of it makes sense. It'd be better if we had delta neutral in our favor, but man, these buyers were kind of weak. Let's put some back on. I know we're coming into the open. Just going to look for that, just like any other entry. At that point where I feel that I will immediately be profitable following that entry. That's how that's how we like to enter, isn't it? Yeah, the only complaint I ever had with this chair is the squeak that it can make. But I feel like this one's finally, no, it still does it. Those are those little side hip things. They still squeak, but Good point. I'm obsessed with all things Greek, I guess. Embarrassingly, I don't know anything about stoicism stuff or whatever you call it. I couldn't even define that for you. I don't know what it is really. I know that one trader in particular that I respect a lot, a successful trader, is big into it, but I don't even really know what that is. I feel like whenever I've seen like a little quote or a meme, not a serious one or whatever, with some of that stuff though, I always kind of relate to it. I feel like it makes sense to me, but okay, so the market is stalling here the past few bars, potentially even trying to tell us it can roll over. But what's wrong with shorting right here, besides approaching the open, which is not really a problem? What's wrong with this potential turning point? What do you guys think? Rhythm's good. DVA's good. It's in line with our objective right now. Yep, you guys are nailing it per usual. Several bars, especially on like a time-based chart, it's just bar, 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 all at those same highs, essentially a form of kind of a little short-term poor high there. But we're seeing the shift in order flow. We're seeing the momentum shift now at this point. It's just one of those where if you do it, your probabilities are reduced. And so it puts us in a situation where, do you want to take that additional risk? Is it worth that additional risk on your seesaw for strength of narrative and things like that? I'm going to pass on it here, especially the time of day factor. That lack of a good quality high right there coming into the open in a couple minutes, I just feel like we could just so easily wick that. And my move to it's not like I'm stalking to get on short exposure. I already have that on. So this is just an aggressive consideration to put more risk back on. So I'm going to be a little more stringent with what I want to see for that, and going to pass on this potential turn. But you guys should definitely do it, because every single thing that I've narrated and passed on this week has been fantastic direct movement. There you go. There it goes. Enjoy the spoils, guys. Enjoy. Every little crappy movement consolidation, I've been there. I've been there pounding. But every little, we can see what's happening here, but it's not good enough for us kind of talk. That's funny. No, I wouldn't be surprised though if we got that initial turn and then a little bit of volatility on the open to clean up that high. Either way, we're short. Minute and a half to they open. Added some there. I think I got caught in the wrong spot. I'm going to take it back off. Sometimes when you are looking for something and you do it, you can immediately tell it was wrong. That was the case there. Got to turn off these fill markers when I can free up my hands. Let's get back into the added size. Seems like it wants to run stops higher here, but I'm not going to give a lot of thought to that kind of feeling that I have. I don't see, other than maybe a compression type pattern starting to form, I don't see anything that's overly concerning. First real delta neutral from below kind of situation here. going to stand aside. Look to hop right back in here if it turns. Unable to cleanly hold delta neutral from below. Back in the short. Flat. Back in the short. Taking some paper cuts, small stops. This one's probably going to be the same. Pretty poor momentum at this point. Look at all the bar to bar overlap of the past 5 or 6 bars. Stood aside. Total buyer dominated tape, except for that one blip right here. Since the open, just absolute buying. There's some more selling. Back in the short. Buyers are back. We'll stand aside. Okay, messy sequence. I mean, let's take a look at it. We're short into the open. Quick little ad, realized we were wrong. Got the wick back into it. Gave it a chance. Gave everything a real chance to work. Pretty much based on, all right, weak buying, delta neutral. But really, this has turned into just a relentless, methodical buying, right? You see how this is a steeper angle of selling than this. But anyways, a couple more, 3 more attempts up here, and just can't get the turn quite yet. Kind of a potential capitulatory flurry there higher. Might take another stab here. It's just one long rotation in my mind. We're still not imbalanced up. That would be too micro of a read. The thing that's concerning, though, is the whatever you want to call it, the buy program that's running the order flow. We do have our next news release, PMI, in a minute and a half. being conservative in front of this imminent release here. Otherwise, that obviously would have been an entry. I guess no one cares about the release. Hopped in short here. Don't have to worry about the news. We're flat. Okay. Unfortunate sequence. We've had a lot of what looked like places where this market wanted to roll over, right? And it's just put in a long grinding move. So at this point, unfortunately, we have to tuck our tails, I think, because it's clearly just not working. Unfortunately, it's probably going to be the point where it does start to work, but that is risk management. That's what you have to do. You can't be overly invested in something happening. I've given it more than enough attempts to work. So at this point, let's look for a change in the dynamic of the order flow. Let's look for an actual shift in what's going on here, right? Something to actually start to open up. Then we could get aggressive, right? And look for something. So for now, we tip our hats and wait for something different. Essentially tagged the upper end of the structural area. 9 a.m. is the revised consumer sentiment. 9 minutes. And that'll be it for the news docket. All right, here's the first real turn I'm not taking, so you guys know what to do. Enjoy. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. A lot of times it's tough if you're looking to trade rotations, and it's been about a half hour of trade, and you look at delta and there's been no rotations to it, just a singular directional move. That's tough a lot of times because you're not getting that ebbing and that flowing, right? It's just something that's just kind of been dominating. And in my opinion, there's no way to see that beyond with the benefit of hindsight, like we're looking at it now. It's just a tough sequence. Anytime you get, it's way, way more common for price, for delta, to have a rhythm to it. That's a component of how I trade, of how I teach people NADRO, rhythm. Well, when there's multiple pieces of rhythm and extremes, if you will, that aren't working in our favor today, which is why we're down today. You have major extremes, yet we're still finding energy to probe higher. You have a decent rotation, and then we move 2.5x more of that rotation. You have a decent amount of buying that starts to get some selling, and then the buyers just come right back. So all those things, you put it together, I'm supposed to lose money. Think about it. I'm supposed to lose money. That's looking at your trading differently. That's looking at it more like it's an algo running, and there's certain conditions in which you understand, hey, when this happens, this is where this algo loses money. And you can't over curve fit, right? Or tweak it to where it doesn't lose money in those situations, yet it still makes the same money in the good conditions. You can't have both. So we have to have situations exactly like this, where we're designed to lose money even while trading effectively. And you have to see your trading that way, else you're going to be too frustrated and think and constantly be changing your tactics because it didn't work for a sequence or didn't work for a day or two. Can't be that way and progress and get deeper with your trade that you're developing. Curious what NQ looks like. NQ yet to get its weekly +2, while the S&P has. NQ delta below 0. I'm just curious. This isn't going to affect my decision making. I don't really believe in a lot of cross market stuff. That's just not, I just don't like that personally. If I'm so good at reading a market to make decisions in another market, why am I just not good enough to read market A and generate alpha in market A? That's my view. Okay, so only one TPO period in here, about to change over here in 3.5 minutes. Yeah, not sure if I've mentioned it today, but you know how this has been a bad week and we've seen some weird stuff. Guess what today's bringing? Today is the last day of the quarter. So this is it. This is the day where all the shenanigans will be on display. Tiny change in the characteristic of order flow. The methodical buying stopped, and we did go sideways here for 10 bars. Small change in character, nothing major, small change. Internal dialogue right now is, what do we think about getting long, right? If the sellers are weak here, if we get kind of a imbalance pullback with buying like that, because at this point I do think we need to call it time acceptance imbalanced up. I know it's one rotation, but it's been long enough to where we can call it imbalanced up. Typically you need to see counter rotations, but the rhythm has been so bad that it's muddied that read. From a time acceptance perspective, I think we can agree that it's imbalanced up. And so anyways, as I was asking myself about getting long, which was one of our scenarios today, the cautious longs, man, it is just really, really uncomfortable for me to do so. from a contextual perspective. I understand that we, in all likelihoods, are trying to zip to this, right? I think I'm going to wait I think I'm going to demand that it is an imbalance pullback above 103 composite value high for me to do that, because monthly, weekly are just too problematic to be long up here for me. I love the short right here, right now, but gonna have to be smarter with the next trade. You know, we're down a handful of R here. What, 3.5 R? So I'm not gonna fight a lack of a contextual order flow shift at this time. I'm not gonna fight the newly defined established imbalance up at this time. It's nice that we did finally actually touch that structural 103 area, seeing a decent reaction from it. So let's see if we go rotational intraday, and then we can put the pedal to the metal again and get aggressive. I teach this with my students all the time. Stop fighting when it's not working. Understand what's against you. Wait for something to change. Wait for something to look different. So that's what we're doing. We could almost draw us. Remember this little box from yesterday? We could even extend it. Whoops, let's not mess it up. There. We spent a lot of time chopping in that area. We could essentially do one in the S&P. I'm not sure where I want that low, probably just here. Market profile doesn't say there's good excess at the high. But that's only because that time change occurred right there. I think that's a decent little, especially on a time-based chart, right? You see this box that we made, and you see this nice wick through it. To me, that could garner some downside auction. This is, and by the way, from that point, that is the strongest bit of selling that we've seen since the open. So there is one small change in character of the order flow. Still imbalanced up. The market is attempting to start to put in some, I mean, it's not there yet, but some decent rotations. Otherwise, this is still all we have. It's just one move. And again, order flow can kind of help us see that too. Like there's actually starting to be some ebb and flow to who's in control of the tape, things like that. This reminds me of like early 2010s, mid 2010s, where you have like a summer grind kind of move. And a little dropout like that was the perfect buying opportunity, right? It actually drops to RTH VWAP. It just clears out a couple stops below an area. And you use that as one of the only ways to get on board with what is just going to be an almost rotationless, grindy type move. That's not the situation we're in here. There's much more volatility to this market than that old market of old that I was describing. but it's certainly so far from the pit session open is acting like that old school market. All right, just bought some here. We're going to go with the uncomfortable, cautious imbalance. Had the little stop run lower. We've seen markets that behave like this before. See if we get out of the upper end of this yellow box. Sellers still got a little something there. I like using RTH VWAP here as kind of the, well, not kind of, but the risk reference for the trade. It's okay if it went one tick through there or whatnot. We don't want to see it continue to knock on that door. That needs to be the area that holds. I could zoom in on that for y'all, just so you see. More clearly what I'm talking about. Horrible place to be long on the monthly and the weekly. Very uncomfortable. I know earlier I said I wanted it over 103 to get long. I kind of forgot that that was my plan there. So a little bit of a mental mistake to then do something different. That's why, even for me, little drawings or notes or journaling, writing it down, putting drawings on your chart, like for example, to remind myself, right? I could have done something like this. And then you're looking at this chart a lot. You're not gonna forget that that's what you want to wait for. Essentially, or right, that you can do things like that. trading is so mentally taxing. Maybe taxing is the wrong word, just demanding is a better word. That for all of us, little guides, little training wheels, little things to help us um, do the things that we would like to do, or that we're thinking are the smartest way to do something, and then to not. It's so easy to slip away from that and get caught up in the here and now, and then do something that goes against that. So that's kind of what I did there. Is it such an egregious trade here? No, it's not. We're going with the grind. We're recognizing conditions. We're imbalanced up. It is one of our plans to go with cautiously a very uncomfortable imbalance up. Finger on the trigger to exit this thing now that it's threatening the lower edge of where we want it to be. One thing I do sometimes to make sure that my hotkeys, or essentially that the window is activated that I need for my hotkeys, is I'll just quickly change quantities just to see those fluctuate on the screen, so I know that we're hot, we're active, and that when I say flatten, it's going to flatten. Right now, when I'm itching my face with one hand, I shifted my other hand to be on my index finger on control and my pinky on the numpad period, which is my flatten button. So I can drive one-handed to flatten out. And then when I put my hands back down, I put them down in a way which I'm never not able to press the button. I like migrate my hands into the new posture, which now I'm back to two hands on the hotkeys. Short-term buyers step in. Would be good to look at the move to potentially 10K as a good place to start to take some risk off and pay ourselves for this trade. But overall, this is very, very ugly. $40 minutes in a 3-point range. 40 minutes in a 3-point range. That's not ideal for day traders. Not a bad idea, Ranelli. Not a bad idea. Okay, how many times can we knock on this door and not get through it? The more times we come back into RTH VWAP, the worse and worse it gets for us. What are we trading? Treasuries here today? Doing a little fixed income trading. Little 30-year note, 30-year bond, I mean. The FGBL. The Bund is a great vehicle. I've come across several guys who really do well with that product with Nadro tools. The DAX, Euro stocks. Yeah, you can use profiles on all kinds of different time frames and use cases. I'm flat. The sixth bar down into RTH VWAP is too much for my taste to sit around and be the sucker that's stopped out below it. Maybe that doesn't look good in hindsight, but for me, it's not like I'm missing out on any great conditions by having anything on right now. Anyways, this is just watching paint dry here, unfortunately. There's no way it doesn't run stops through these lows. There's no way, right? That's too good. That's too good. He's out pumping, pumping. Show him the size. Well, I have to say, perhaps it's just it's a fitting end to a tough week. Delta into 10K. So that would have been, had you just to teach, that would have been a perfect spot to scale right there. You push that high, you get into 10K, boom, +2 RTH, 1.5 ETH. Would love to see it crack, really would. It's the second time we've probed above that 103 structural area. And I'm telling you guys, it's going to be hard for this market to just trend higher today. It can happen, like we keep saying, but it's the harder thing for the market to do, which is why I've mostly been positioned short, except for that one attempt, I believe, there. Or high on the day now, BC periods. Absorption. I mean, if you're talking again, it's that more amateur read, I think, where you see delta quite a bit higher while price is at the same level. But in reality, where I see the biggest thing that went different was the lack of selling right here. Price went all the way to the lows. Delta didn't. Therefore, Delta's starting from a higher place. And you read that as absorption, and it's not. there is a little bit of micro absorption right there. We saw, I don't know, 500 contracts get sold just then, and price went higher as that happened. That was micro absorption in the past, 10 seconds. Still underneath 10K. C period took out the highs by a little bit there. Not great excess, but it did take out the highs. Unable to get through 10K. When there's no back and forth rotations, guys, there's no good opportunity. Yeah, Stavas. I think that's about right. Well, I hate to say it, but I think we might as well shut down the stream here. I really wanted just for different reasons, non-trading reasons, to really come in and kind of build off that little bit of momentum we got yesterday, and really have like a strong finish to the week. So I'm disappointed, but again, that's like a totally different psychological factor. It's all about the intensive, right? Rather than just my trading. If it's just my trading, I'm closing shop here today. And this absolutely sucks in terms of conditions and whatever. We'll see you Monday, but I've just got that thing where I want the intensive to be good. I want to, so anyways, I'll deal with that. So what might we see as we sign off here? Number one, I guess at this point, based on short-term conditions, one of the most probable things we're going to see is just more of the same until proven otherwise. Crappy participation. We're probably going to see a wild close given quarter end. I don't think it'll be a very tradable wild close, but probably, a sneak preview is the delta we saw after the close at that random time yesterday. And it was that dynamic that somebody pulled up in my tweet from last year, whenever that was, about, hey, look, there's some size. Let's start hitting it. Oh, it's still there. Keep hitting it. Oh, it's still there. Give it all you've got. and you see this wild, what was it, 20,000 contracts with no change in price. Anyways, forward looking here as we sign off, more potential grind up. Let's see if we start to hold over 103. Let's see if Delta starts to hold over 10K. That would give us more of an all clear, if you will, in that regard, to keep going with the grind up, similar to our last attempted trade. We can turn the fills back on. However, the thing that would have me most interested is if we actually crack, right? If we actually, something really changes with order flow and we go rotational intraday, that's going to have me very interested in trading. I may not touch the continued grind up again today, but if we crack, you're probably going to see me try to fade something short that pulls back. So that's my plans. Just a day where the market's not giving us something nice. We gave it a good effort. We gave it a good run. That's trading. We'll see you guys for the Q&A and for the review later. And I'll keep you posted in the thread if I'm making some moves. See you.